Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive. This time we're going to be looking at our phones,
Oh, exciting.
how they affect our lives and how we can have maybe a healthier relationship with them.
Okay.
And our guide for this journey is Catherine Price's book, How to Break Up with Your Phone, the 2025 edition.
The 2025 edition. Wow.
So it's very up to date, and she has some really fascinating insights into the way that we behave,
Okay.
the way our brains work, and how our phones are designed
I'm intrigued.
to exploit that. So to start us off, she shares this statistic that Americans check their phones an average of 144 times per day.
144 times a day.
That is a lot.
That's more than I would have guessed, honestly.
What about you? Can you relate to that number?
I don't know. I've never actually counted, but I'm sure it's up there.
I think if I counted, I would be terrified to find out the real number.
Probably right. It's
Yeah.
probably best not to know sometimes.
But it really highlights how central these devices have become in our lives.
Absolutely. They're like an extension of ourselves at this point.
And what's really interesting is how these phones and the apps that we use are intentionally crafted
Oh, yeah.
to keep us hooked.
Designed to be addictive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like those slot machines that are so good at getting people to just keep pulling that lever.
I see the analogy.
And at the heart of this addictive design is dopamine, a neurotransmitter that's all about pleasure and reward.
Right. Dopamine, the feel-good chemical.
It's what drives our cravings and helps solidify habits.
And our phones are triggering it constantly.
All the time.
Yeah.
With every notification, every little bit of new information that pops up, it's like a little hit of dopamine.
Like a reward for checking our phones.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And it's this cycle of dopamine hits that keeps us coming back for more and more, even when we know we should be doing something else.
It's like we're those lab rats pressing a lever for a pellet of food, except the food is a notification or
And Sean Parker, the founding president of Facebook, he actually admitted that the platform was designed to exploit these vulnerabilities in human psychology.
Really? He said that?
He did. He talked about how it was all about creating a sort of social validation feedback loop.
Interesting. So they knew what they were doing.
It really makes you think about the intentions behind these platforms, doesn't it?
It does. It's a bit unsettling to think that they're designed to keep us hooked rather than truly connect us.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It all ties into this idea of the attention economy,
Yeah.
where companies are profiting from the amount of time we spend glued to our screens.
Our attention is the currency.
And nowhere is this more evident than in the world of social media, which is where we'll delve into next time.
Looking forward to it. Welcome back to our deep dive into how to break up with your phone.
So last time we were discussing how these devices are designed to capture our attention.
Right, and how that can be pretty problematic.
And a bit unsettling, if I'm honest.
Yeah, definitely. And this ties into the larger issue of social media.
Oh boy, social media. Where do we even begin?
It's a mixed bag for sure.
The book argues that even though it's designed to connect us, it often leaves us feeling more isolated.
Yeah, that's the irony of it all, isn't it?
How can something that connects us with so many people make us feel lonelier?
Well, part of it is this pressure to present a perfect life, you know?
The curated highlight reel.
Exactly. Everyone's posting their best moments, their achievements, their picture-perfect vacations.
And we're stuck comparing our everyday lives to these idealized versions of reality.
Right, and it creates this sense of inadequacy, like we're not measuring up.
And that leads to FOMO, fear of missing out.
Oh, definitely. We're constantly bombarded with images and stories of other people seemingly having a better time than us.
And it makes us anxious and dissatisfied with our own lives.
It's like we're always chasing something that we can never quite grasp.
And then there's the sheer amount of time we're spending on these platforms.
Oh yeah, it's staggering.
Globally, people spend an average of 2.5 hours every single day on social media.
2.5 hours every day. That's over a month per year.
Imagine what you could do with an extra month every year.
Seriously, I could learn a new language, travel the world, write a book.
The possibilities are endless. And speaking of things that are concerning, the book also talks about the mental health implications of excessive phone and social media use.
Yeah, especially for teenagers.
The rates of depression, anxiety, self-harm, even suicide have been rising sharply among teens in recent years.
Scary trend.
And Surgeon General Vivek Murthy, he actually called for warning labels on these platforms.
Warning labels like on cigarettes.
Because the potential for harm is that serious.
Wow, that's a strong statement.
It really highlights the need for greater awareness and regulation.
Absolutely. We can't ignore the potential risks.
It's not just mental health. There's also the darker side of social media.
The online predators and cyberbullying.
The spread of misinformation and hate speech.
It's easy to forget that the internet can be a dangerous place.
The book even mentions how the FBI has issued warnings about online gaming platforms being used for criminal activities.
That's terrifying.
They're seeing an increase in cases involving child exploitation and identity theft.
It's a reminder that we need to be vigilant and protect ourselves and our children.
But it's not all doom and gloom. Let's move on to how excessive phone use affects our cognitive abilities.
Okay, I'm ready for some brain talk.
The book delves into this fascinating concept called neuroplasticity.
Neuroplasticity. What's that?
It's the idea that our brains are constantly changing and adapting based on how we use them.
So our brains aren't fixed, they're constantly evolving.
Exactly. Every time we engage in an activity, we're strengthening certain neural pathways while others weaken.
It's like working out your brain.
And the problem is that the constant distractions from our phones are actually rewiring our brains in a way that makes it harder to focus, think deeply, and even remember information.
So our phones are making us less intelligent.
In a way, yes. Nicholas Carr, in his book The Shallows, argues that the internet is designed to rewire our brains as quickly as possible and not necessarily for the better.
That's a disturbing thought.
It's like our brains are being molded by these technologies without us even realizing it.
We're becoming slaves to the algorithm.
And the constant stream of information and notifications prevents us from achieving that state of focused attention that's so crucial for deep thinking and creativity.
We're always in a state of partial attention, flitting from one thing to the next, never fully engaging with anything.
It's like we're juggling a dozen balls at once and we're bound to drop a few.
And in the process, we're losing our ability to concentrate, to think critically, to be truly present in the moment.
It's a recipe for burnout and decreased cognitive function.
And it's not just affecting our ability to think clearly.
What else does it affect?
Well, our memory, too.
Oh, really? How so?
So Jonathan Haidt, a social psychologist, talks about these things called experience blockers.
Experience blockers. Never heard of that.
Me neither until I read this book. It's fascinating. Basically, he's saying that our phones prevent us from forming strong memories.
How can a phone block an experience?
It's about being present. You know, like if you're at a concert, but you're constantly checking your phone, you're not truly experiencing the concert.
You're there physically, but mentally you're somewhere else.
Exactly. And because
Okay.
you're not fully present, your brain doesn't encode the memory as effectively.
So it's like taking a picture with the lens cap on.
Mm-hmm.
You might be there, but nothing gets captured.
That's a great analogy. And this lack of presence also impacts our well-being.
In what way?
Well, there's this concept called flow that was developed by Csikszentmihalyi.
Flow, I've heard of that. It's that feeling of being completely absorbed in an activity. Right.
Yes, like when you're so engrossed in something that time seems to disappear.
Like when I'm working on a challenging puzzle or reading a really good book.
Exactly. Those are moments of true flow, and they're incredibly rewarding.
They are. But how do our phones get in the way of that?
Well, Catherine Price talks about junk flow.
Junk flow.
Mm.
Never heard of that either.
It's basically the opposite of true flow. It's that feeling of being constantly stimulated, but never truly satisfied.
Like endlessly scrolling through social media.
Or binge watching videos. You're engaged, but it's not truly fulfilling.
It's like eating junk food. You get a momentary hit of pleasure, but it leaves you feeling empty.
Exactly, and it just makes you crave more junk flow.
So how do we break free from this cycle of junk flow and reclaim our attention?
That's where the breaking up part of the book comes in.
I mean, I love my phone. I don't think I can actually break up with it.
No one's saying you have to completely abandon your phone. It's more about changing your relationship with it.
Okay, so like setting boundaries.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's about taking back control and making conscious choices about how and when you use your phone.
So where do we start?
Well, one of the most effective strategies is mindfulness.
Mindfulness? I thought that was just for meditation and stress relief.
It can be used for that, but it's also incredibly helpful for breaking addictions.
Really? I didn't know that.
There's this researcher, Judson Brewer, who did some groundbreaking work with mindfulness training for addiction recovery.
Interesting.
His studies showed that mindfulness can be really effective in helping people overcome cravings and change their habits.
So how does it work?
It's about paying attention to your thoughts, feelings, and sensations without judgment. So instead of mindlessly reaching for your phone, you become aware of the urge. You acknowledge it, and then you make a conscious decision about whether to engage with it.
So it's about creating that pause, that space between the stimulus and the response.
Exactly. It gives you the opportunity to choose a different path.
I like that. The book also talks about these things called speed bumps.
Speed bumps, what are those?
They're basically little obstacles that you put in place to make yourself more aware of when you're reaching for your phone.
Oh, I get it. Like literally putting a rubber band around your phone so you have to pause and think before you unlock it.
Exactly. Or changing your home screen to a picture that asks you, why am I picking up my phone right now?
That's clever. It makes you confront your intentions.
And it helps you break that automatic habit.
So we've got mindfulness and speed bumps. What other strategies does the book recommend?
Well, there's also the idea of creating no phone zones.
Like certain places or times where you just don't use your phone?
Exactly, like the dinner table or the bedroom.
The bedroom, that's a good one. I'm always checking my phone before bed.
It's so tempting. But that blue light from our phones can interfere with our sleep.
Right, it messes with our melatonin production.
And good sleep is crucial for our physical and mental health.
So no phones in the bedroom, got it. Any other tips?
Well, the book also suggests using app blocking apps.
To limit our screen time.
Exactly. You can set limits for specific apps or block them altogether during certain times.
That could be helpful for those really addictive apps like social media.
Or for work, if you need to focus and avoid distractions.
So it's all about setting boundaries and being more intentional with our phone use.
And remembering that technology should serve us, not the other way around.
It's about reclaiming our time, our attention, and ultimately our lives.
As Catherine Price puts it, it's about breaking up with your phone to make up with your life.
That's a great way to put it.
Mm.
So what can we do instead of constantly checking our phones?
Well, that's the exciting part. It's about rediscovering the things that bring us joy and fulfillment.
Like spending time in nature, connecting with loved ones, pursuing our passions.
Or simply being present in the moment without feeling the need to document everything.
It's about living our lives offline instead of just observing them through a screen.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final question from Catherine Price.
Okay, hit me.
What could you achieve or experience if you reclaimed even 1 hour per day from your phone?
Wow, that's a powerful question. It really makes you think about all the possibilities.
It does. Maybe it's time we all start asking ourselves that question.
I think so. It's time to break up with our phones and make up with our lives.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into how to break up with your phone.
Until next time, stay mindful.